The blood was still warm when Rex Sullivan found her. A decorated detective dying in the shadows of an abandoned warehouse. 6 children stolen. A police captain turned monster. And one single father with a German shepherd who would risk everything, his safety, his future, even his daughter's life, to do what an entire police force couldn't. This is the true story of the night that changed everything. Stay with me until the end and comment below with your city so I can see how far this story travels across the world. The thing about ordinary nights is that they never warn you when they're about to become extraordinary. Rex Sullivan had learned that lesson twice in his life. Once in Kandahar, when a routine patrol turned into a firefight that left him carrying 3 wounded brothers through a storm of bullets. And now, on a Tuesday in October, walking his German shepherd through the forgotten corners of Denver's industrial district. The clock on the old Pepsi bottling plant read 11:47 p.m. Rex's shift at the Morrison construction site had run late again. Captain Morrison, his boss, and a decorated former police officer, had a habit of squeezing every last minute out of his workers. But Rex didn't complain. Single fathers with Army medic experience and no college degree didn't get to be picky about overtime. "Come on, Thunder," Rex called softly, watching his 70-pound German shepherd sniff the base of a chain-link fence. "Chloe's waiting for our video call." Thunder's ears perked up at the mention of Rex's 8-year-old daughter. The dog had been there the day Chloe was born, and the two had been inseparable ever since, at least until Rex's ex-wife had left them both for a tech consultant in Seattle. Now Chloe lived with Rex's sister in Denver proper, visiting every weekend, while Rex worked doubles to save for a custody lawyer. The industrial district at night was a graveyard of American manufacturing. Rusted conveyor belts stretched like skeletal fingers through broken windows. Graffiti-covered walls that once bore proud company logos. Rex had taken this route home for 3 months now. It cut 15 minutes off his walk, and every minute mattered when you were trying to say goodnight to your daughter before her bedtime. But tonight, Thunder stopped. Not the casual pause of a dog investigating a smell. This was different. The German shepherd's entire body went rigid, his hackles rising like a ridge of wire along his spine. A low growl rumbled from his chest, the kind of sound that had saved Rex's life twice in Afghanistan. "What is it, boy?" Thunder's nose pointed toward Warehouse 7, a massive concrete structure that had once housed automotive parts. The building had been condemned for 2 years, its windows boarded, its doors chained. But tonight, a single light flickered in the loading dock area, a bare bulb swinging in the October wind, and beneath that light something dark spread across the concrete. Rex's combat instincts fired before his conscious mind caught up. His hand dropped to Thunder's collar, steadying both the dog and himself. His eyes scanned the shadows, cataloging exits, cover positions, potential threats. Old habits didn't die, they just waited for moments like this. The dark stain was spreading. Fresh. Wet. Blood. "Easy." Rex whispered more to himself than the dog. Could be nothing. Could be a homeless person who got hurt. Could be... Then he saw her. A woman lay crumpled against the warehouse wall, 20 feet from where he stood. Her body was twisted at an unnatural angle, one arm flung out as if reaching for something just beyond her grasp. She wore dark clothes, no, not just dark. A uniform, tactical pants, a vest. Police. Rex's medic training overrode everything else. He'd made a promise once, kneeling in the sand beside a dying Marine. Never walk past someone who needs help. Never. Thunderheel. The dog stayed close as Rex approached, every sense alert. His boots crunched on broken glass. The woman's breathing was shallow, rapid, the kind of respiratory pattern that meant internal bleeding, possibly a punctured lung. Her face was turned away, but he could see the blood matting her dark hair pooling beneath her shoulder. "Ma'am." Rex knelt beside her, fingers already moving to her neck to check her pulse. Can you hear me? Her eyes snapped open. They were brown wide with pain, and something else recognition. Fear. Her lips moved, forming words that came out as barely a whisper. They took the children. Rex's blood turned to ice. His fingers found her pulse, thready weak, racing at 140 beats per minute. Definitely internal bleeding. Minutes maybe before she went into shock. Stay with me, he said, his voice dropping into the calm, authoritative tone he'd used 100 times in field hospitals. My name is Rex Sullivan. I'm a medic. I'm going to help you. But even as he said it, his combat instincts were screaming. Something was wrong. The placement of her body, the way the blood pooled the convenient light overhead, it was all too perfect, too staged. The woman's hand shot out, gripping his wrist with surprising strength. Her name tag caught the light. D.E.T. C. Martinez. Trap, she gasped. They know you're here. The pieces clicked together in Rex's mind, even as Thunder's growl erupted into a savage bark. Footsteps. Multiple contacts, moving from the shadows. Rex spun, putting himself between Detective Martinez and the approaching threats. 3 men emerged from the warehouse darkness, each carrying weapons that caught the flickering light. Handguns. Professional grips. Moving with the kind of coordination that spoke of training. But it was the 4th man who made Rex's world tilt sideways. Captain William Morrison stepped into the light, brushing dust from his expensive jacket. His silver hair was perfectly combed, his smile was perfectly pleasant, and the gun in his hand was perfectly steady. Mr. Sullivan. Morrison said, his voice carrying that same easy charm he used at construction sites. Army medic, honorable discharge, single father to a beautiful daughter named Chloe Marie Sullivan, age 8. Rex's heart stopped. She's staying with your sister right now, isn't she? Apartment 4C, Maple Heights? Loves strawberry ice cream. Sleeps with a stuffed elephant named Dumbo. Morrison pulled out a tablet, swiping the screen with one finger. He turned it toward Rex. The image showed Chloe at a shopping mall holding his sister's hand. The timestamp read 6:47 p.m., less than 5 hours ago. In the next photo, Chloe was getting into his sister's car. In the third, she was visible through an apartment window, sitting at a kitchen table. I have people everywhere, Mr. Sullivan. Morrison's smile never wavered. Good people. Professional people. People who can make accidents happen so easily. A gas leak. A car malfunction. A random home invasion in the wrong neighborhood. Thunder lunged against Rex's grip, teeth bared, but Rex held him back. Every muscle in his body wanted to launch himself at Morrison, to tear that smile off his face too. But Chloe's face was on that screen. His baby girl. The only thing in the world that mattered. What do you want? Rex's voice came out flat, dead. Martinez coughed, blood speckling her lips. Don't help him. Morrison glanced at her with mild interest. Detective Martinez here has been a problem. She infiltrated an organization that prefers to remain private. She gathered evidence, recorded conversations, took pictures, very inconvenient. He gestured to one of his men who stepped forward and rolled Martinez onto her side. She cried out in pain as her jacket was yanked open, revealing a small recording device clipped inside her vest, its red light still blinking. We need that recorder destroyed, Morrison continued. And we need the good detective here to have died of her injuries before help could arrive. Natural consequences of police work in dangerous neighborhoods. And if I refuse... Rex already knew the answer. Morrison's smile widened. Then Chloe never makes it to school tomorrow. Such a tragedy, a brake failure on a steep hill. Your sister won't suffer if that's any consolation. It'll be quick. The world narrowed to a pinpoint. Rex had faced death before, bullets, bombs, the kind of chaos that turned human beings into statistics. But this was different. This was his daughter. His Chloe, who still believed her daddy could fix anything, who thought monsters were only in storybooks. You have 60 seconds to decide. Morrison said, checking his watch. After that, I make a phone call, and Chloe's bedtime story ends very differently than usual. Detective Martinez's fingers tightened on Rex's wrist. She was fading fast, her breathing becoming more labored. But her eyes, those brown eyes, held something fierce. "Fight," she whispered. "The children. Red container. Behind the building. 6 of them." 45 seconds, Morrison announced. Rex's mind raced. 3 armed men plus Morrison. Thunder could take 1, maybe 2 in the chaos. But the guns, the distance, the odds, it was suicide. And even if by some miracle he survived, 1 phone call would kill Chloe. But if he did what Morrison wanted, 6 children would disappear into the kind of darkness that Rex had seen in war zones. The kind of darkness that swallowed people whole and never gave them back. And Detective Martinez would die knowing she'd failed. 30 seconds. Thunder pressed against Rex's leg, a solid presence. The dog's growl had dropped to a low rumble, but his body was coiled like a spring. Rex had seen Thunder in action before the dog had taken down a would-be mugger 2 months ago, with the kind of precision that came from military breeding. "The children," Martinez gasped again. "Please." 20 seconds. Rex's hand moved slowly to Thunder's collar fingers, finding the release point. To anyone watching, it looked like he was calming the dog. But Thunder knew this touch. It was the signal they'd practiced 100 times. "Ready. Wait for my command." 10 seconds, Mr. Sullivan. "I really do hate to rush you, but I'll do it," Rex said quietly. Morrison's smile became genuine. "Excellent. I knew you were a reasonable man. Now if you'll just destroy that recorder and help us move the detective to a more suitable location. On one condition." The smile faltered. "You're not in a position to negotiate. Show me proof that my daughter is safe. Right now. Live feed." Morrison's eyebrow arched. "You don't trust me. You're about to make me an accomplice to murder. Why would I trust you?" For a long moment, Morrison studied him. Then he nodded to one of his men. "Make the call. Video." The man pulled out a phone, dialed, and after a few seconds, turned the screen toward Rex. The image showed his sister's apartment, the kitchen. Chloe sat at the table in her pajamas, drawing with crayons. She was singing softly to herself, completely unaware that a camera was watching her through the window. Something in Rex's chest shattered and reformed harder. "Satisfied?" Morrison asked. "Yeah." Rex stood slowly, keeping his hands visible. "I'm satisfied." He walked toward Morrison, each step measured. Thunder followed, still growling. The 3 armed men tensed weapons, tracking his movement. Rex stopped 3 feet from Morrison, looking the older man directly in the eyes. "I just wanted to be sure," Rex said softly, "that when I do this you'll know exactly why." His hand dropped to Thunder's collar and yanked the release. "Thunder attack." 80 pounds of trained German Shepherd exploded forward like a missile. Thunder's jaws locked onto the nearest gunman's arm before the man could even raise his weapon. The gun clattered across concrete as Thunder dragged him down, teeth flashing. Rex moved in the same instant. His hand shot out, grabbing a length of iron pipe that lay near Martinez's body, part of the warehouse's scattered debris. He swung it in a tight arc, connecting with the second gunman's wrist with a sickening crack. The man's gun fell as he howled in pain. Gunfire erupted. The third gunman had his weapon up, finger on the trigger. Rex threw himself sideways, rolling behind a concrete support pillar as bullets sparked off the column. Chips of stone exploded into dust. "Kill him!" Morrison's voice had lost all its charm. "Kill them both!" But Thunder was already moving. The dog released the first gunman and charged the third, a blur of fur and fury. The gunman swung his weapon toward the dog, but Thunder was too fast, too well trained. He hit the man low at the knees, taking his legs out from under him. Rex came around, the pillar pipe raised. The second gunman, the one with the broken wrist, was fumbling for his dropped weapon with his offhand. Rex kicked the gun away and brought the pipe down on the man's shoulder. Not enough to kill, but enough to take him out of the fight. Morrison was backing toward the warehouse entrance, his own weapon raised. "You stupid son of a—" Rex dove as Morrison fired. The bullet screamed past his ear so close he felt the heat. He came up behind a rusted barrel, his mind calculating angles and distances. 3 gunmen down or disabled. Morrison still armed. Thunder circling back to Rex's position. But Rex could hear it now, sirens in the distance. Martinez must have triggered some kind of alert before Morrison found her. Help was coming. Which meant Morrison had minutes, not hours. "You've killed your daughter!" Morrison screamed. "Do you understand that? She's dead. I'm making the call right now." Rex's blood turned to ice, but he forced himself to think. Morrison's phone was in his jacket pocket. To make the call, he'd need both hands, one to hold the phone, one to dial, which meant lowering his gun. "Do it," Rex called back. "Make your call. But you better hope whoever's watching my daughter is faster than the Denver PD." Morrison's face twisted. "What are you—" Martinez triggered an alert. That's what those sirens are. Every cop in Denver knows there's an officer down at Warehouse 7. And when they get here, when they find your recorder and hear her testimony, do you really think your people will stick around? They'll scatter like rats? It was a bluff. Rex had no idea if Martinez had managed to call for help, but he could see the doubt creeping into Morrison's expression. "You're lying." "Maybe. Or maybe you have about 90 seconds before a SWAT team breaches this building. Your call." Morrison's gun hand wavered. His other hand twitched toward his pocket. That was when Thunder attacked. The German Shepherd had been waiting, reading Rex's body language the way he'd been trained. When Morrison's attention shifted, when his gun dipped just slightly, Thunder moved with the kind of speed that made him worth his weight in gold. Morrison fired wild, the bullet going high, as Thunder slammed into his chest. The impact drove Morrison backward into a stack of wooden pallets. He went down hard, his gun skittering across the floor. Rex sprinted forward, pipe still in hand. Morrison was trying to scramble away, but Thunder had him pinned, teeth inches from his throat. "Thunder, hold!" The dog froze, maintaining position, but not biting. His growl was continuous, a sound that promised violence if Morrison so much as breathed wrong. Rex kicked Morrison's gun away, then knelt beside the man who had threatened his daughter. "Here's what's going to happen," Rex said, his voice deadly calm. "You're going to give me your phone. You're going to call off your people watching my daughter, and then you're going to tell me where those 6 children are." Morrison laughed, actually laughed. "Or what? You'll kill me." "You're a hero, Sullivan. A medic. You save people. You don't—" Rex pressed the iron pipe against Morrison's throat, just enough pressure to make breathing difficult. "I was a combat medic," Rex said quietly. "Do you know what that means? It means I know exactly how to keep someone alive. It also means I know exactly how to make sure they wish they weren't." He increased the pressure slightly. Morrison's eyes bulged. "I know where every nerve cluster is, every pain point, every place I can apply pressure that will make you scream without killing you. And I have all night." "You won't. My daughter's life is on the line. What do you think I won't do?" For the first time, real fear entered Morrison's eyes. He saw something in Rex's face, something that came from carrying wounded soldiers through kill zones, from making impossible choices in the dark, from being a father who would burn the world to keep his child safe. "Phone!" Morrison gasped. "Jacket. Pocket." Rex retrieved it, keeping the pipe ready. He found Morrison's contacts scrolling until he found one labeled Watcher. "Call them. Speakerphone. Tell them to stand down." Morrison's hand shook as he took the phone. The call connected after 2 rings. "Status." A flat voice answered. "Stand down," Morrison said. "Primary mission scrubbed. Leave the secondary target alone." Confirmation code. Delta. 7, Echo. Confirmed. Disengaging. The line went dead. Rex let out a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. It could be a lie. Morrison could have just alerted them. But the sirens were getting louder, and Rex had to make a choice. Trust that Chloe was safe, and save 6 other children, or run to his daughter and let those children disappear forever. Thunder licked his hand once, as if understanding the decision being made. The children, Rex said. Where? Morrison's laugh was bitter. Red shipping container, behind the building. But you'll never get them out in time. There are more of my people coming, more than you can handle. Rex stood looking down at the man who had threatened everything he loved. Then I better hurry. He found zip ties in one of the fallen gunman's pockets, the professional kind used by security forces. Within seconds, Morrison was secured to a support beam, his hands behind his back, his legs immobilized. The 3 gunmen received similar treatment. Thunder stood guard his presence enough to keep them still. Detective Martinez was barely conscious when Rex knelt beside her again. Her pulse was weaker, her skin clammy. She needed a hospital, and she needed it now. "The recorder," she whispered. "Take it. Evidence." Rex carefully removed the device from her vest, tucking it into his own pocket. "Already done. Stay with me, detective. Help's coming." "The children? I'm going to get them. I promise." He tore off his shirt, wadding it against her worst wound to slow the bleeding. It wasn't much, but it might buy her a few more minutes. The sirens were close now, maybe 30 seconds out. Thunder barked once, sharp and urgent. "I know, boy. Let's go." Rex ran. Behind the warehouse, exactly where Martinez had said, stood a red shipping container. It was the kind used for international freight, 40 feet long, unmarked, except for a series of numbers stenciled on the side. A heavy padlock secured the doors. Rex looked around desperately. No bolt cutters, no tools, nothing but... His eyes fell on the iron pipe still in his hand. It would have to do. He wedged the pipe through the lock's shackle and pulled with everything he had. The metal groaned but held. He braced his foot against the container and pulled again, muscles screaming. "Come on! Come on! Come on!" Thunder joined in biting the pipe and pulling alongside him. With a crack like a gunshot, the lock shattered. Rex tore open the container doors. 6 pairs of eyes stared back at him from the darkness. Children, ranging from maybe 5 to 12 years old, huddled together on the cold metal floor, terrified, filthy, and alive. "It's okay," Rex said, forcing his voice to stay gentle despite the urgency. "I'm here to help. My name is Rex. I'm going to get you out of here." The oldest, a girl with dark braids and a defiant expression, spoke first. "Are you a cop?" "No, I'm a dad, and I promise you no one is ever going to hurt you again." He helped them out one by one. Some could walk, others needed to be carried. Thunder moved among them, letting the younger ones pet him, his presence calming despite his size. The sirens had stopped. Rex could hear voices now, authoritative and urgent. "Police." "This way," he told the children. "Stay close to me." They rounded the warehouse just as a fleet of police cars screeched to a halt. Doors flew open, officers emerged with weapons drawn, and a woman's voice cut through the chaos. "Freeze hands where I can see them." Rex raised his hands, the children clustering behind him. Thunder sat at his feet, alert, but not aggressive. "Rex Sullivan," he called out. "Former Army medic. There's an injured detective inside Martinez. She needs immediate medical attention. 3 suspects are zip-tied inside. The man in charge is Captain William Morrison." A female officer in a lieutenant's uniform approached cautiously, her weapon trained on Rex, but her eyes taking in the scene. The children, the dog, the blood on his hands that clearly wasn't his. "Lieutenant Sarah Hayes," she said. "What happened here?" "Long story. But Detective Martinez has a recorder with evidence of human trafficking. Morrison was running it. She was undercover. They tried to kill her. I intervened. Hayes studied him for a long moment, then keyed her radio. All units, officer down inside Warehouse 7. Medics to my location immediately. Suspects in custody. She lowered her weapon. Mr. Sullivan, you're going to need to come with me for questioning. I understand. But first, he turned to the children. These kids need medical attention, and someone needs to contact their families. The youngest child, a little girl who couldn't have been more than 6, was holding his hand. She looked up at him with eyes that had seen too much. Are you really a daddy? She asked. Rex knelt down to her level, feeling his heart break and mend at the same time. Yeah, sweetheart, I really am. Will you stay until our daddies come? He looked at Lieutenant Hayes, who nodded once. Yeah, Rex said softly. I'll stay. And as the chaos of emergency vehicles and shouting officers swirled around them as Detective Martinez was loaded into an ambulance with Thunder watching protectively as the 6 children were wrapped in blankets and checked by paramedics, Rex pulled out his phone. He had one call to make before the police took him in for questioning. His sister answered on the first ring. Rex, it's almost midnight. Is everything? Is Chloe okay? She's fine. She's asleep. Why? What's wrong? Nothing. Everything. I'll explain later. Can you just check on her? Make sure she's really okay? He heard his sister's footsteps, a door opening softly. She's right here, his sister whispered. Sleeping like an angel. Rex, you're scaring me. I'm okay. I'm safe. I needed to know she was safe too. What happened? Rex looked around at the warehouse at the police tape going up at the children being reunited with crying parents at Thunder, sitting beside him like a faithful guardian. I did something right, he said finally. For the first time in a long time, I think I did something that really mattered. The fluorescent lights in the Denver Police Department's interrogation room hummed with a frequency that made Rex's head ache. He'd been sitting in the metal chair for 3 hours now, Thunder lying at his feet despite protocol suggesting the dog should have been left outside. Lieutenant Hayes had made an exception after Thunder refused to leave Rex's side, and one of the younger officers had nearly lost a finger trying to separate them. Hayes sat across the table, a digital recorder between them, her expression unreadable. She'd changed out of her tactical gear into a crisp white shirt and navy blazer, but her eyes still carried the intensity Rex had seen at the warehouse. Behind her, through a two-way mirror, Rex knew other officers were watching, judging, deciding whether he was a hero or a suspect. Let's go through it again. Hayes said, her voice even. From the beginning. Rex suppressed a sigh. This was the 4th time. I was walking Thunder home from work. He stopped at Warehouse 7. I found Detective Martinez bleeding out. Then Morrison showed up with 3 armed men. And you just happened to be walking through the industrial district at midnight. It's a shortcut. I take it every night. Convenient. Or coincidental. Rex leaned forward. Lieutenant, I've told you everything. Morrison threatened my daughter. He had people watching her. I had to make a choice: let him kill Martinez and those kids, or fight back. I fought back. Hayes tapped her pen against her notepad. Morrison is claiming you attacked him unprovoked. Says you assaulted his men, planted evidence, and coerced a confession. He's lying. Is he? Because right now I've got a decorated former police captain in custody, 3 private security contractors with no criminal records in the hospital, and a construction worker covered in blood who admits to assaulting all of them. Rex felt his jaw tighten. Check Martinez's recorder. It's all there. We are checking it. But equipment can be tampered with. Recordings can be faked. You don't believe me. Hayes set down her pen, and for the first time her expression softened slightly. Mr. Sullivan, I've been a cop for 17 years. I've seen a lot of bad people do bad things while claiming they're the victims. I've also seen good people make terrible choices for the right reasons. She paused. What I'm trying to figure out is which one you are. Check the shipping container. Rex said quietly. Ask those 6 children what happened. Ask their parents. Ask Martinez when she wakes up if she wakes up. Detective Martinez is in surgery. Punctured lung, severe internal bleeding, fractured ribs. The doctors say if you hadn't applied pressure to her wounds, she would have bled out before we arrived. Hayes studied him. You saved her life. Then why am I being interrogated like a criminal? Because Morrison is connected. He's got friends in the department, in the city council, in the mayor's office, and those friends are already calling, asking questions, applying pressure. She leaned back in her chair. Politics, Mr. Sullivan. The thing that makes good police work complicated. Thunder lifted his head, a low growl rumbling in his chest. Rex's hand dropped to the dog's neck, calming him. Hayes noticed the gesture. That's a military dog, isn't it? The way he responds to you. Thunder washed out of the K9 program. Aggression issues with other dogs. But he's never hurt a person unless I give the command. And you gave that command tonight. To save lives. Yes. The door to the interrogation room opened, and a young officer stuck his head in. Lieutenant, you need to see this. Hayes stood, giving Rex a long look. Stay here. Don't go anywhere. Wasn't planning on it. She left, and the door clicked shut behind her. Rex closed his eyes, letting his head fall back against the chair. His body ached in places he'd forgotten could ache. The adrenaline had worn off hours ago, leaving behind the crash exhaustion so deep it felt like gravity had doubled. Thunder whined softly, pressing his head against Rex's knee. I know, boy, Rex murmured. I know. The minutes crawled past. Rex checked his phone, 1:47 a.m. His sister had texted 4 times, each message more frantic than the last. He'd responded with brief reassurances, but he knew she was sitting up waiting, probably researching lawyers on Google. When Hayes returned, she wasn't alone. A man in an expensive suit followed her late 50s silver hair, the kind of presence that suggested authority and money in equal measure. He carried a leather briefcase and wore an expression that could have been carved from marble. Mr. Sullivan, the man said, extending a hand. Gerald Blackwood. I'm an attorney representing certain parties interested in your situation. Rex didn't take the hand. I didn't call a lawyer. Consider me a concerned citizen. Blackwood sat down uninvited, placing his briefcase on the table. Lieutenant Hayes, I trust my client has been advised of his rights. I'm not under arrest, Rex said before Hayes could respond. And I don't need a lawyer. I told the truth. Blackwood smiled, the kind of smile sharks probably wore before attacking. Mr. Sullivan, the truth is a commodity. It can be packaged, presented, and sold in various ways. Right now, the truth being presented by Captain Morrison's legal team is quite different from yours. Let them present whatever they want. Martinez's recording will prove everything. About that. Blackwood opened his briefcase, pulling out a tablet. The recording device you recovered was damaged in the altercation. Water damage, physical trauma. The digital forensics team is working on recovering the data, but it could take days, maybe weeks. And there's no guarantee they'll recover anything usable. Rex's stomach dropped. That's convenient. Isn't it? Blackwood's smile didn't waver. Which means, at the moment, this case comes down to testimony. Morrison and his men say one thing. You say another. Detective Martinez is unconscious and may not wake up for days. The children you rescued are traumatized and their statements are unreliable from a legal standpoint. Hayes crossed her arms. What's your point, counselor? My point is that Mr. Sullivan should consider accepting a settlement. Captain Morrison's representatives are willing to drop all charges and provide a substantial financial compensation in exchange for Mr. Sullivan's silence on this matter. The room went very quiet. Rex stared at Blackwood, then at Hayes, then back to Blackwood. You're offering me a bribe. I'm offering you a lifeline. Captain Morrison is a pillar of this community, a decorated officer, a successful businessman. His reputation, he threatened my daughter. Rex's voice was deadly calm. He runs a human trafficking ring. He tried to kill a police detective. And you want me to take money and pretend it didn't happen?" Blackwood's expression didn't change. "I want you to consider your own daughter's future. Legal battles are expensive, Mr. Sullivan. They take years. They destroy families. Your daughter needs stability, not a father who's embroiled in a high-profile criminal case. She needs a father who does the right thing." "The right thing," Blackwood repeated, as if tasting the words. "Such a flexible concept. What's right for you might not be right for Chloe. Have you considered what happens if you lose? If Morrison is acquitted and you're left with nothing but legal bills and a reputation as the man who falsely accused a respected community leader." Thunder's growl intensified. Rex's hand tightened on the dog's collar. Hayes stepped forward. "Mr. Blackwood, unless you're representing Mr. Sullivan, I'm going to have to ask you to leave." "Of course." Blackwood stood straightening his suit. "Mr. Sullivan, my card is on the table. When you're ready to have a rational conversation about your future, call me. The offer expires in 48 hours. He left, and the door closed with a soft click that sounded like a gunshot in the silence. Hayes sat down slowly, her eyes on Rex. "For what it's worth, I think that man is a snake. But he's not wrong about the legal realities. If Martinez's recording is corrupted, if her testimony is delayed, this becomes a he said situation. And Morrison has resources you don't. So I should take the money and let him walk." "I didn't say that." Hayes pulled out her phone, scrolling through something. "I said the legal realities are complicated, which is why I need to show you something." She turned the phone toward Rex. On the screen was a news article already published despite the early hour. The headline read, "Construction worker assaults, decorated police captain in botched robbery attempt." Rex felt his blood turn cold as he read. The article painted him as a desperate single father who'd tried to rob Morrison at a construction site. When caught, he'd fabricated a story about human trafficking to justify his violence. The 6 children weren't kidnapping victims, they were Morrison's employees' kids playing in the warehouse while their parents worked late. Martinez wasn't undercover. She was a troubled detective who'd been under investigation for evidence tampering and had attacked Morrison when he confronted her. Every fact was twisted. Every truth was inverted. "This is insane," Rex whispered. "None of this is true." "Welcome to modern information warfare." Hayes took back her phone. "Morrison's people are already controlling the narrative. By morning, every news station in Denver will be running some version of this story. Social media is already picking it up. You're about to become the villain in a story you didn't write." "What about the children? Their parents know the truth." "The parents have been contacted by Morrison's lawyers, offered compensation for their children's trauma, asked to sign NDAs. Some have already agreed. They're being paid off. Or they're scared. Morrison has shown he can reach anyone. If he can threaten your daughter while she's under police protection, what can he do to families who aren't?" Rex stood pacing the small room. Thunder followed, staying close. "So what do I do?" "Just give up. Let him win." Hayes was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was careful, measured. "Officially, I have to advise you to cooperate with the investigation and let the justice system work. Unofficially," she glanced at the two-way mirror, then back to Rex. "Officially, this conversation never happened." "Understood. Morrison is dirty. I've known it for years, but he's been untouchable. Too connected, too careful. But tonight you rattled him. You made him sloppy. And sloppy people make mistakes." "What kind of mistakes?" "The kind that leave trails. Financial records, communications, witnesses who might talk if they think Morrison's empire is crumbling." Hayes leaned forward. "The recording device might be damaged, but data doesn't just disappear. We have specialists. Real specialists, not the ones Morrison's people can buy working on recovery. It'll take time, but they'll find something. And in the meantime, you survive. You protect your daughter. You stay visible, stay public. Make it harder for Morrison to make you disappear. A knock on the door interrupted them. The same young officer from before looked in. "Lieutenant Detective Martinez is out of surgery. She's asking for Sullivan." Rex and Hayes exchanged glances. "Can she talk?" Hayes asked. "Doctors say 5 minutes max. She's weak, but conscious." Hayes stood. "Let's go." The hospital corridor smelled like disinfectant and fear. Rex had spent enough time in field hospitals to recognize the combination, the desperate cleanliness, the underlying current of pain and death that no amount of bleach could wash away. Thunder stayed close, his presence drawing looks from nurses and patients alike, but no one stopped them. Hayes had called ahead, clearing the way. Martinez's room was at the end of the hallway, guarded by 2 uniformed officers. They stepped aside as Hayes approached, though their eyes lingered on Rex with undisguised suspicion. Inside, Martinez looked smaller than she had at the warehouse. Tubes ran from her arms to IV bags. Monitors beeped steadily. Her face was pale bruised, but her eyes were open and alert when Rex entered. "Sullivan." She rasped, her voice rough from the breathing tube they'd only recently removed. "Detective." Rex moved to her bedside, Hayes hanging back near the door. "How are you feeling?" "Like I got shot and stabbed and left to die in a warehouse." A ghost of a smile touched her lips. "So about normal for undercover work." "The recording—" "Damaged, I know. They told me." She coughed, wincing. "But I have backups. Everything I gathered over 6 months, names, dates, locations, transactions. All encrypted and uploaded to a secure server." Rex felt hope kindle in his chest. "Where?" "That's the problem. The encryption key was on my phone. Morrison's people have my phone." She grabbed Rex's hand with surprising strength. "But I memorized something. A location. Where they're moving the next shipment." "Shipment of what?" "Children. 20 of them. Coming up from the border. Morrison's network extends into Mexico, into Central America. Tonight was supposed to be a small operation, just those 6 kids as a test run for a new route. But the big shipment is in 3 days. Hayes stepped forward. "Detective Martinez, you need to rest. We can debrief you later." "There is no later," Martinez interrupted. "Morrison knows I'm alive. He knows I talked to Sullivan. He'll move up the timeline or cancel the shipment entirely. We have one chance to stop this, and it's now." She pulled Rex closer, her eyes intense despite her pain. "There's a truck stop off I-76 about 40 miles north, Midway Truck Plaza. The shipment comes through there Friday night 2 a.m. They transfer the kids from semi-trailers to local vehicles. Morrison will be there personally. It's too big an operation to delegate." "How do you know all this?" Hayes asked. "Because I was supposed to be there too. Part of my cover. I was working as Morrison's logistics coordinator." Martinez's hand tightened on Rex's. "You saved those 6 children tonight, but there are 20 more who need saving. 20 kids who'll disappear into the system if we don't stop this." "We'll stop it," Hayes said firmly. "I'll organize a task force. SWAT, DEA, FBI if necessary. We'll shut down." "No." Martinez's voice was sharp. "Morrison has people inside the department. The moment you start organizing official channels, word will get back to him. He'll know. He'll run." "Then what do you suggest?" Martinez looked at Rex. "You stopped him once. You can stop him again." "Me?" Rex shook his head. "I'm not a cop. I'm not even armed. I got lucky tonight." "Luck had nothing to do with it. You're a combat medic with tactical training. You think on your feet. You don't freeze under pressure. And most importantly, Morrison doesn't know you're coming." "This is crazy," Hayes said. "I can't authorize a civilian to—" "You're not authorizing anything. Officially, this conversation isn't happening." Martinez turned back to Rex. "I'm not asking you to go in guns blazing. I'm asking you to scout. Confirm the location. Get eyes on the operation. Then we bring in the cavalry. And if something goes wrong, then you get out. You're not trying to be a hero. You're gathering intelligence." Rex thought about Chloe sleeping safely in his sister's apartment. He thought about the 6 children at the warehouse, their terrified eyes. He thought about 20 more children somewhere out there being transported like cargo. Thunder pressed against his leg, a warm, solid presence. "What do you need me to do?" Rex asked quietly. Martinez smiled, though it was clearly painful. "There's a storage unit in Henderson. Number 247. Combination is 183241. Inside you'll find equipment I've been gathering. Cameras, recording devices, tactical gear. Everything you'll need." "You've been planning this." "I've been planning for contingencies. When you work undercover this deep, you learn to have backup plans for your backup plans." She coughed again, harder this time. "Hayes, you're going to want to officially tell Sullivan not to do this." Hayes crossed her arms. "Mr. Sullivan, as an officer of the law, I am officially ordering you not to engage in any vigilante activities. Do you understand?" "Yes, ma'am." "Good." Hayes pulled out a business card, writing something on the back. "This is my personal cell number. If you see anything suspicious, and I mean anything, you call me immediately. Not 911, not the regular police line. Me. Understood?" Rex took the card. "Understood." A nurse bustled in, checking Martinez's monitors. "I'm sorry, but the patient needs rest. You'll have to leave." Martinez's eyes were already closing, exhaustion claiming her. But she managed one more whisper. "Friday night, 2 a.m. Don't be late." Outside the hospital, the Denver night was cold and clear. Rex stood on the sidewalk, Thunder sitting at his feet, and looked up at the stars. Somewhere up there, his younger self, the one who'd enlisted to serve his country, who'd believed in clear lines between right and wrong, was probably laughing at how complicated life had become. Hayes joined him, lighting a cigarette despite the no smoking signs. "You know this is insane, right?" "Yeah. Morrison will kill you if he catches you. And I can't protect you if you're breaking the law." "I know." She took a long drag, exhaling smoke into the night. "When I was a rookie, I had this partner. Good cop. Honest. He discovered that a sergeant was stealing from the evidence room, cash drugs, reselling it on the street. My partner reported it, followed protocol, did everything by the book." "What happened?" "The sergeant had friends. My partner's report got buried. He got transferred to the worst precinct in the city. Started getting death threats. Someone slashed his tires, broke into his house. 6 months later, he ate his gun in his garage." Rex looked at her. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because the system is broken. It protects people like Morrison and destroys people like my partner, like Martinez, like you if you're not careful." She dropped the cigarette, crushing it under her boot. "But sometimes someone comes along who doesn't care about the system. Someone who just does what's right, consequences be damned." "You want me to be that someone?" "I want you to understand what you're risking. Your safety, your daughter's future, your freedom." Hayes met his eyes. "And I want you to know that if you do this, if you go after Morrison outside official channels, I can't help you. Not publicly. The best I can do is look the other way and hope you don't get killed." "Noted." "But..." She pulled out her phone, typing something. "If you happen to find evidence of criminal activity, and if that evidence somehow makes its way to my desk anonymously, well, I'd be obligated to investigate. Officially." Rex's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "This is Hayes. Delete this after reading. Good luck." He deleted it. Hayes turned to leave, then stopped. "Sullivan. Those 6 kids you saved tonight, one of them was the mayor's niece. Her family's been looking for her for 3 weeks. Whatever happens with Morrison, you gave those families their children back. That matters." She walked away, leaving Rex alone with Thunder under the stars. The dog looked up at him, brown eyes patient and trusting. "What do you think, boy?" Rex asked softly. "Am I crazy for even considering this?" Thunder's tail wagged once. "Yeah, that's what I thought." Rex pulled out his phone, looking at the time. 3:17 a.m. In 12 hours, he needed to be at work. In 3 days, he needed to be at a truck stop 40 miles north, gathering evidence against a man who had the resources to make him disappear. But first, he needed to talk to his daughter. The video call connected after 2 rings. His sister's face filled the screen, her expression tight with worry. "Rex, where are you? The news is saying you attacked someone. Is Chloe awake? It's 3 in the morning. Of course she's not. Wake her up, please. I need to talk to her." His sister's expression softened. She disappeared from the frame, and Rex heard her gentle voice, the sound of a door opening a sleepy protest. Then Chloe's face appeared, her hair mussed from sleep, her stuffed elephant clutched in one arm. "Daddy!" Rex felt something in his chest crack open. "Hey, baby girl! Why are you calling so late? Did you catch bad guys?" He almost laughed. Almost. Something like that. "Listen, I need to tell you something important." "Okay. You know how sometimes people say mean things that aren't true?" Chloe nodded, her expression serious. "Like when Tommy Brennan said I was weird because I like science." "Exactly like that. Well, some people might say mean things about Daddy for a while. Things on TV or on the internet. But none of it is true. You understand? Are you in trouble?" "No, sweetheart. I'm okay. But I did something tonight that made some bad people angry. And those bad people might try to make me look bad." "What did you do?" Rex thought about how to explain human trafficking, corruption, and violence to an 8-year-old. "I helped some kids who were in danger. I made sure they got home safe." Chloe's eyes widened. "Like a superhero?" "No, like a dad. That's all." He paused. "But here's the thing. I might need to help some more kids. And that might mean I'm not around as much for a little while. You might have to stay with Aunt Rachel a bit longer." "How long?" "I don't know yet." Chloe's lower lip trembled. "You're scaring me, Daddy." "Don't be scared. I promise I'm going to be careful. And I promise that no matter what happens, I love you more than anything in the world." "More than thunder." Rex smiled despite everything. "Way more than thunder. Don't tell him I said that." "When will I see you?" "This weekend, just like always. We'll go get ice cream and go to the park. Normal stuff." "Promise." "Promise." After they said goodbye, after Chloe had been tucked back into bed, his sister came back on the screen. "Rex, what's really going on? Something I should have walked away from, but didn't. The news is saying, the news is lying, but that's okay. The truth will come out eventually. And what if it doesn't?" Rex looked down at Thunder, who was watching him with those patient, loyal eyes. "Then I guess I better make sure it does." He ended the call and stood there on the sidewalk, a single father with a German Shepherd and a choice that could destroy his life or save 20 children he'd never met. The choice, Rex realized, had never really been a choice at all. Friday night, 2 a.m., Midway Truck Plaza. He had 3 days to prepare for a fight he couldn't afford to lose. The storage unit in Henderson sat in a complex that had seen better decades. Rust climbed the corrugated metal walls like ivy, and half the security lights had burned out years ago. Rex pulled into the lot at 4 in the morning, Thunder alert in the passenger seat, both of them running on nothing but coffee and determination. Unit 247 was in the back corner, away from the main office, and the few occupied units. Rex checked the combination 3 times before the lock clicked open. The door rolled up with a screech that seemed impossibly loud in the pre-dawn silence. Inside, illuminated by his phone's flashlight, was a small arsenal of surveillance equipment that would have made a private investigator jealous. Martinez hadn't been exaggerating. Cameras with night vision capabilities, audio recording devices, small enough to hide in a pen cap, binoculars with thermal imaging, even a tactical vest with built-in pockets for equipment. Everything was organized in plastic bins with handwritten labels in Martinez's precise script. But it was the laptop in the corner that caught Rex's attention. He opened it, and the screen came to life, password protected. He tried the combination from the lock. Nothing. Then he remembered Martinez's words about backup plans for backup plans and typed in the date of the warehouse incident followed by the number of children rescued. The screen unlocked. What Rex found made his blood run cold. Martinez had been documenting Morrison's operation for 6 months, and the scope was staggering. Spreadsheets tracked shipments across 3 states. Photographs showed faces some adults, but too many children. Financial records traced money flowing through a web of shell companies. Names, dates, locations, all meticulously cataloged. She knew. Rex whispered to Thunder. She knew how big this was, and she went in anyway. The dog whined softly, pressing against Rex's leg. Rex spent an hour copying everything to an encrypted drive, then another hour familiarizing himself with the equipment. The cameras were straightforward enough point and shoot, though these had zoom capabilities that could read a license plate from 300 yards. The audio equipment was trickier, requiring careful placement and testing to avoid feedback. By the time the sun started painting the sky pink, Rex had packed a duffel bag with everything he might need. He locked the storage unit and drove home, his mind already working through scenarios and contingencies. The next 48 hours were a study in surreal contrast. By day, Rex showed up at Morrison construction sites, hammering nails and hauling lumber alongside men who had no idea their boss was a monster. By night, he studied maps of the Midway Truck Plaza, memorizing every entrance, exit, and sightline. Morrison himself didn't appear at the work sites. His absence was conspicuous, and the other workers noticed. "Captain must be dealing with that crazy guy who attacked him," one of them said during a lunch break on Thursday. "Did you see the news? Some nut job tried to rob him?" Rex kept his head down, his sandwich tasteless in his mouth. The media campaign against him had intensified. His face was on every local news channel, grainy security footage from the warehouse that had been edited to make him look aggressive and unhinged. Social media had picked up the story, and amateur detectives were already doxing him, posting his address. His sister's address. Even photos of Chloe that they'd scraped from old Facebook posts. His sister had called in a panic Wednesday morning. "Rex, there are people outside my building. They're taking pictures. Chloe's scared to go to school." "Keep her home," Rex had said. "Just for a few days. I'll handle this." How are you going to handle people who think you're a criminal?" He didn't have an answer for that. Not one that would satisfy her anyway. Lieutenant Hayes had been true to her word about looking the other way, but she'd also been clear about the department's official position. A press conference Wednesday afternoon had featured the police chief standing beside Morrison's lawyer, calling for Rex's arrest on multiple charges: assault, kidnapping, evidence tampering. The fact that Rex hadn't been arrested yet was, Hayes explained in a terse text message, only because Martinez's condition had stabilized enough for her to give a statement contradicting Morrison's version of events. But Martinez's statement, delivered from her hospital bed with a lawyer present, had been carefully worded. She confirmed that Rex had saved her life and rescued 6 children. She did not mention the recording device, the truck stop, or Morrison's threats against Chloe. Playing the long game, Rex realized, not tipping their hand until they had irrefutable proof. The problem was that irrefutable proof required Rex to walk into a trap that could end with him dead in a ditch. Thursday evening, Rex picked up Chloe from his sister's apartment for their scheduled visit. The little girl had been quiet in the car, her stuffed elephant clutched tight, her eyes darting nervously at every passing vehicle. "Are the bad people going to hurt you, Daddy?" she asked as they sat in their favorite ice cream shop, her strawberry cone melting faster than she could lick it. Rex wanted to lie. Wanted to tell her everything would be fine, that the bad people were just confused, that this would all blow over. But he'd promised himself when her mother left that he would never lie to Chloe about important things. "I don't know, baby girl," he said honestly, "but I'm being very careful, and I have Thunder to protect me." At the sound of his name, Thunder's tail thumped against the floor from his position under their table. The ice cream shop owner had initially protested a dog inside, but one look at Rex's face and the service dog vest Rex had borrowed from a friend had ended that argument quickly. What if they hurt Thunder? Thunder's tough. He can handle himself. Chloe took a small lick of her ice cream, her expression far too serious for an 8-year-old. Aunt Rachel says you should go to the police. I did go to the police, sweetheart. They're trying to help, but it's complicated. Why is it complicated? How do you explain corruption to a child? How do you tell her that sometimes the people who are supposed to protect you are the ones you need protection from? Because the bad people are good at pretending to be good people, Rex said finally. And it takes time to prove they're lying. Like the wolf in Little Red Riding Hood. Rex smiled despite everything. Exactly like that. But the wolf gets caught in the end. Yes, he does. So the bad people will get caught too. Rex reached across the table, taking her small hand in his. I'm going to do everything I can to make sure they do. That night, after he'd dropped Chloe back at his sister's apartment, after the tears and the promises to be careful, and the gut-wrenching walk to his truck while his daughter watched from the window, Rex sat in the parking lot and let himself feel the full weight of what he was about to do. Tomorrow night, he would drive to a truck stop 40 miles from Denver and spy on a criminal operation run by a man who had already proven he was willing to kill to protect his empire. He would be alone, except for Thunder, armed with nothing but cameras, and Hope going up against people who had guns and training, and no qualms about making problems disappear. The smart thing would be to walk away, to take Blackwood's offer, accept the money, and disappear with Chloe somewhere Morrison couldn't find them. Start over. New city, new name, new life. But 20 children would pay the price for his safety. 20 kids who would vanish into a system that treated them like commodities, who would suffer things Rex had seen in the worst parts of Afghanistan, things that haunted him still. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Storage unit is being watched. Morrison's people. Don't go back. Rex deleted the message, but his hands were shaking. Morrison knew about the storage unit, which meant he knew Rex had taken the equipment, which meant he knew Rex was planning something. The trap was set, and Rex was walking into it anyway. Friday morning arrived with clouds that promised rain. Rex called in sick to work the first time he'd done so in 3 months. His supervisor had been suspicious but didn't push. Everyone had seen the news. Everyone knew Rex was involved in something messy. He spent the day checking and rechecking his equipment. The cameras worked. The audio recorders worked. The thermal binoculars worked. Everything was ready except him. At noon, Lieutenant Hayes called. Not texted called. That alone told Rex something was wrong. Martinez's condition deteriorated, Hayes said without preamble. Her lung collapsed again. She's back in surgery. Rex closed his eyes. Will she make it? The doctors don't know. But here's the thing, her medical chart shows signs of tampering. Someone injected something into her IV line, something that caused the complication. Morrison. We can't prove it. The hospital security footage from that floor mysteriously corrupted. But yeah, probably Morrison. Hayes paused. Sullivan, whatever you're planning for tonight, don't do it. This guy is playing for keeps. He just tried to kill a cop in a hospital. He won't hesitate to kill you. I know. Then why are you still going? Because someone has to. Hayes was silent for a long moment. If you get killed, I'm going to be really annoyed at the paperwork. I'll try not to inconvenience you. Sullivan, her voice softened. For what it's worth, you're either the bravest man I've ever met or the stupidest. I haven't decided which. Can't it be both? She almost laughed. Almost. Watch your 6 out there. And if things go sideways, you run. Don't be a hero. Just run and call me. Yes, ma'am. The rain started at 6 p.m., a cold October drizzle that turned the world gray and miserable. Rex packed his duffel bag into the truck, then spent 20 minutes saying goodbye to Thunder in case it was the last time. You're staying here, boy, he said, kneeling in front of the German Shepherd. I need you to guard the house. Can you do that? Thunder whined his eyes, sad and confused. The dog knew something was wrong. Dogs always knew. I know you want to come, but this is different from the warehouse. This is surveillance, not combat. I need to be quiet and invisible, and you're neither of those things. Rex scratched behind Thunder's ears. If I don't come back, Hayes will take care of you, she promised. You'll be okay. The dog licked his face and Rex had to turn away before the emotion overwhelmed him. His sister had agreed to check on Thunder every few hours, though she'd done so with a resigned expression that said she knew Rex was lying about where he was going. Be safe, she'd said, hugging him harder than usual. Chloe needs her father. I know. Do you? Because you're acting like a man who doesn't expect to come home. Rex had pulled back, meeting her eyes. I'm acting like a man who needs to do the right thing, whatever the cost. Now driving north on I-76 in the rain, Rex wondered if doing the right thing had always been this terrifying, or if fatherhood had simply made him more aware of everything he stood to lose. The Midway Truck Plaza appeared out of the darkness like something from a dystopian movie. Massive sprawling, lit by sodium lamps that turned the rain orange. 18-wheelers filled the parking areas, their engines rumbling like sleeping dragons. The main building housed a restaurant, showers, a convenience store, and enough dark corners for a dozen illegal transactions. Rex drove past the main entrance, circling the perimeter as he'd planned. Martinez's notes had identified a service road on the eastern edge of the property, hidden behind a line of trees. It led to an old maintenance shed that had been abandoned when the truck stop expanded 5 years ago. He parked behind the shed, killing his lights. The clock on his dashboard read 1:17 a.m., 43 minutes until the scheduled meet. Rex pulled on the tactical vest Martinez had left in the storage unit, checking each pocket. Camera 1 in the left chest pocket, camera 2 in the right. Audio recorder in the small pocket near his shoulder. Backup battery pack in the back. Phone in the interior pocket set to silent, but ready to dial Hayes if everything went sideways. The rain had intensified, which was both good and bad. Good because it would cover the sound of his movement. Bad because it would ruin visibility and make the equipment harder to use. Rex grabbed the thermal binoculars and made his way through the trees toward the main complex. The ground was muddy, sucking at his boots with each step. Water dripped from branches down his collar, soaking him despite his jacket. He found a position 50 yards from the main parking area, hidden behind a dumpster that smelled like diesel and rotting food. From here he had a clear view of the entire lot. The thermal binoculars cut through the darkness, showing heat signatures of idling trucks and the few people moving between vehicles. At 1:47 a.m., a black SUV pulled into the lot, followed by another, then a third. They parked in formation near the back, away from the main lights. Men emerged, 6 of them, all wearing dark clothing, all moving with military precision. Rex raised camera 1, zooming in on their faces. He didn't recognize most of them, but the tall man directing the others made his breath catch. Morrison. The man looked different than he had at construction sites. Harder, more focused. This wasn't a businessman playing at criminality, this was someone who'd done this 1,000 times. At 1:53, a semi-trailer pulled around the building, backing toward the SUVs. The driver got out, walked to Morrison, exchanged brief words. Money changed hands. Rex caught it on camera, the envelope passing from Morrison to the driver. Then Morrison walked to the back of the trailer and opened it. Even from 50 yards away, even through the rain and darkness, Rex could see the small figures huddled inside. Children. Maybe 15 of them, maybe more. Wrapped in blankets, shivering, terrified. Rex's hands tightened on the camera. Every instinct screamed at him to rush forward to stop this, to save them. But Hayes's words echoed in his mind. Don't be a hero. Just gather evidence. He forced himself to keep filming as Morrison's people began transferring the children from the trailer to the SUVs. They moved efficiently, without compassion, treating their cargo like furniture being moved between storage units. One child, a girl, maybe 12 years old, tried to run. She made it 3 steps before one of Morrison's men grabbed her, pulling her back roughly. She screamed, the sound carrying across the parking lot despite the rain. Morrison stepped forward and slapped her, hard. The sound cracked through the air like a gunshot. The girl collapsed sobbing and was dragged to one of the SUVs. Rex's vision went red. His hand dropped to his belt where he'd stashed the iron pipe from the warehouse just in case. 3 steps forward and he could... His phone buzzed. A text from Hayes. "Are you there? Confirming you're just observing." The message pulled him back from the edge. He typed a response with shaking hands. "Here. Observing. Multiple targets. At least 15 children. Hayes good. Keep distance. Help is coming." Rex looked at the timestamp. Help is coming. He hadn't told Hayes the exact time or location, only that he was going to the truck stop. How could she have help coming unless she'd been planning this all along? Unless she'd used him as bait to draw Morrison out? The realization should have made him angry, but instead, he felt relief. He wasn't alone in this. Hayes had his back, even if she'd been playing her own game. The transfer was nearly complete. 13 children now in the SUVs, the last few being moved from the trailer. Morrison was on his phone talking to someone, his expression animated. Then his head snapped up, looking directly toward Rex's position. For a heart-stopping moment, Rex thought he'd been spotted. But Morrison wasn't looking at him. He was looking past him toward the service road where Rex had parked. Car headlights swept through the trees. Multiple vehicles moving fast. Morrison shouted something Rex couldn't hear over the rain. His people scattered, running for their SUVs. Engines roared to life. The trap had been sprung, but not the trap Rex had expected. Whoever was coming down that service road wasn't the police. Police would have used lights and sirens, would have announced themselves. These vehicles were dark, quiet, moving with the kind of stealth that spoke of something else entirely. Rex grabbed his phone, calling Hayes. She answered on the first ring. "Sullivan, where are you?" "Behind the dumpster on the east side. There are vehicles coming from the service road, not police." "Who did you send?" "I didn't send anyone. Sullivan, get out of there, now." The first vehicle burst from the trees, a black van with tinted windows. It skidded to a stop, and armed men poured out. But they weren't moving toward Morrison. They were moving toward the semi-trailer, toward the children still inside. A second trafficking group. A rival operation trying to steal Morrison's shipment. Gunfire erupted. Morrison's people returned fire from behind their SUVs. The rain-soaked parking lot became a war zone, muzzle flashes, lighting up the darkness like strobe lights. And caught in the middle were at least 20 terrified children. Rex watched one of the rival group's men run toward the trailer, weapon raised. The remaining children inside screamed, pressing themselves against the far wall, nowhere to go, nowhere to hide. Hayes's voice was tinny and distant in his ear. "Sullivan, Sullivan, answer me. Do not engage. Do you hear me? Do not..." Rex dropped the phone and ran. He had no weapon except the iron pipe. No backup except his training and his rage. But those children were about to be caught in a crossfire between 2 groups of monsters, and he was the only one close enough to do anything about it. The first rival gunman never saw him coming. Rex swung the pipe low, connecting with the man's knee. The man went down with a scream, his weapon clattering away. Rex grabbed it. A handgun, safety off, round chambered. He'd sworn after Afghanistan that he'd never hold a gun again. That oath lasted exactly as long as it took him to see the next gunman aiming toward the trailer full of children. Rex fired twice, center mass, the way he'd been trained. The gunman dropped. The parking lot dissolved into chaos. Morrison's people had realized they were fighting on 2 fronts, now the rival group and whoever this new shooter was. Bullets sparked off metal, glass shattered. Someone was screaming for backup. Rex made it to the trailer, climbing inside with the remaining children. 7 of them ages, ranging from maybe 6 to 14. They stared at him with eyes that had seen too much, trusted too little. "I'm here to help," Rex said, trying to keep his voice calm despite the gunfire outside. "We're going to get you out of here, but you need to do exactly what I say. Understand?" The oldest, a boy with a scar across his cheek, nodded once. "Who are you?" "Someone who's really tired of bad people hurting kids." Rex looked out the trailer opening. Morrison's SUVs were pulling away, abandoning the semi and the children. The rival group was pursuing, still firing, which meant the trailer was about to become the safest place in the lot, abandoned by both groups. Rex's phone was still on the ground where he'd dropped it, but he could hear sirens now. Real ones. Hayes had made the call. "Listen to me," Rex told the children. "The police are coming. Real police, not the bad people. When they get here, you tell them everything. Where you came from, who brought you here, everything you remember. Can you do that?" The boy with the scar nodded again. "What about you?" "I'm going to make sure the bad people don't come back." Rex jumped from the trailer just as the first police cars screamed into the parking lot. But these weren't regular patrol units. These were SWAT vehicles, tactical units, the kind of response that Hayes must have been coordinating for days. He ran toward his truck, keeping low, avoiding the spotlight sweeps. Behind him, he heard officers shouting commands, heard the remaining gunmen surrendering or being taken down. The children were safe. Hayes had control of the scene, but Morrison had escaped. Rex made it to his truck, soaking wet, covered in mud, still holding a gun that wasn't his. He threw it in the passenger seat and started the engine, but before he could put the truck in gear, his phone rang. "Hayes," he answered. "Are you out?" she asked. "Yeah." "The children?" "Safe. 7 in the trailer. Morrison had 13 more in his SUVs. We got his vehicles 3 miles down the road. All the children are accounted for. All alive." Her voice carried a weight of relief and exhaustion. "You did good, Sullivan." "Morrison got away." "No, he didn't. We tracked his phone. He's headed back to Denver, probably thinks he can lawyer up and claim this was all a misunderstanding." Hayes paused. "But here's the thing. One of those children you saved, she's been missing for 8 months. Her father is Senator Richard Chen. You know what happens when a senator's daughter is found in a human trafficking ring? Federal involvement. FBI, DOA, Homeland Security, everyone's going to want a piece of this. Morrison's connections in the Denver PD won't mean squat against federal charges. He's done." Rex let his head fall back against the seat, relief washing over him. "And me?" "You were never there. Officially, an anonymous tip led us to the truck stop. We found the children engaged with hostile forces and made multiple arrests. Your name doesn't appear anywhere in the reports. What about the evidence, the cameras?" "What cameras?" Hayes's tone was carefully neutral. "As far as I know, you spent tonight at home with your daughter. Thunder can probably confirm that alibi." Despite everything, Rex smiled. "Yeah, he's good at keeping secrets. Go home, Sullivan. Hug your kid. Take a shower. Try to sleep. Morrison's lawyer will probably call you in the morning trying to intimidate you into silence. Tell him to go to hell. You're untouchable now." "How do you figure?" "Because those children are going to testify. Because Martinez is going to testify. Because we have enough evidence to bury Morrison and everyone who worked with him. And because Senator Chen is personally invested in making sure everyone involved pays." She laughed, but it was dark. "The irony is that Morrison threatening your daughter was probably the stupidest thing he could have done. It motivated you to take him down. If he'd just left you alone, he might have gotten away with it." Rex thought about that. About all the choices that had led to this moment. Finding Martinez in the warehouse. Fighting back instead of surrendering. Taking Chloe to get ice cream and seeing the determination in her eyes. "Maybe," he said. "Or maybe it just gave me the excuse to do what I should have done anyway." "What's that?" "Stand up to the monsters." He ended the call and sat in his truck, listening to the rain, watching the blue and red lights flash through the trees as Hayes and her team processed the scene. 20 children saved. Morrison's empire crumbling. Martinez alive and recovering. It should have felt like victory, but all Rex could think about was the girl Morrison had slapped. The way she'd fallen. The way no one had helped her until Rex had climbed into that trailer. How many more children were out there in situations just like this, waiting for someone to care enough to fight for them? Rex started the truck and headed home toward Denver, toward Chloe and Thunder, and the ordinary life he'd been trying so hard to maintain. But something had changed in him over the past 72 hours. Something fundamental. He'd learned that one person could make a difference, that standing up to power was terrifying but possible, that the system was broken, but individuals within it, people like Hayes and Martinez, were still trying to fix it from the inside. And he'd learned that being a father meant more than just protecting his own child. It meant creating a world where all children were safe. The lights of Denver appeared on the horizon, warm and welcoming through the rain. Rex drove toward them exhausted but alive, afraid but determined. Thunder would be waiting for him. Chloe would call in the morning, excited to tell him about some science experiment she'd done with her aunt. Life would go on. But Rex Sullivan, single father, former medic construction worker, was no longer content to just let it happen around him. Thunder was at the door before Rex's key even turned in the lock. The German Shepherd's entire body vibrated with relief, his tail a blur as Rex stumbled inside, soaking wet and bone-tired. The dog pressed against his legs, whining softly, sniffing every inch of him, as if cataloging where he'd been and what he'd done. "I know, boy," Rex murmured, kneeling to wrap his arms around the animal. "I know. I'm sorry I left you." The apartment was dark and quiet. Rex had left the TV on for Thunder, and some late-night infomercial was promising miracle weight loss through a revolutionary belt system. He turned it off, and the silence felt heavy, oppressive. His hands were still shaking from adrenaline, or cold, or the memory of holding that gun he couldn't tell. The shower ran scalding hot until the water heater gave up, and Rex stood under the spray, watching mud and rain circle the drain. His mind kept replaying the truck stop, the gunfire, the children's faces that girl Morrison had hit. When he finally emerged, his skin was red and raw, but he still didn't feel clean. Sleep was impossible. Rex lay in bed. Thunder pressed against his side, staring at the ceiling and listening to sirens in the distance. Every sound made him tense. Every car passing on the street below made him reach for his phone. Morrison was arrested, Hayes had said. But arrested didn't mean powerless. Men like Morrison had lawyers and connections, and the kind of money that could make problems disappear. At 6 a.m., when Rex had finally dozed off for maybe 20 minutes, his phone exploded with notifications. Text messages, missed calls, emails flooding in faster than he could read them. He grabbed the phone, heart pounding, expecting threats or warnings or Morrison's people telling him they knew where Chloe slept. Instead, he found news alerts. Breaking senator's daughter among 20 children rescued in human trafficking bust. Former police captain arrested in multi-state trafficking ring. Anonymous hero saves children. Denver police won't reveal identity. Rex scrolled through article after article, watching his anonymous actions become a media sensation. Senator Chen had given a tearful press conference at 4 a.m., his daughter by his side, thanking the unnamed individual who'd risked everything to save her. The FBI had taken over the case. Morrison's construction company was being raided, his bank accounts frozen, his associates rounded up one by one. The empire was falling exactly as Hayes had predicted. But buried in the good news was something that made Rex's blood turn cold. One article from a less reputable news site featured a headline that read, "Sources identify mystery hero as Rex Sullivan, same man who attacked Morrison days earlier." Someone had leaked his name. Someone had connected him to the truck stop despite Hayes's precautions. And now the same people who'd painted him as a violent criminal were scrambling to reframe the narrative caught between two contradictory stories. His phone rang. Hayes. "You see the news?" she asked without preamble. "Yeah. Morrison's lawyer leaked your name, trying to muddy the waters, claim you're some kind of vigilante with a vendetta. It's not going to work. We have too much evidence, but it's going to make your life complicated for a while." Define complicated. "Media camped outside your building. Reporters calling everyone who's ever met you. Your boss already got 3 interview requests asking about your employment history." Hayes paused. "And Morrison's lawyer filed a civil suit against you this morning. Assault, defamation, emotional distress, asking for $5 million in damages." Rex laughed a harsh, bitter sound. $5 million? I don't have 5,000. It's a nuisance suit, meant to intimidate you, drain your resources, make you back off. Standard playbook for guys like Morrison when the criminal case isn't going their way. What do? You get a lawyer, and you keep your head down. Don't talk to the press. Don't respond to provocation. Let Morrison's people spin their wheels while we build the criminal case. And if they come after Chloe again..." Hayes's voice hardened. "They won't. Morrison is under 24-hour surveillance. His known associates are all flagged. He makes one wrong move and his bail gets revoked. Besides hurting your daughter now, would only prove our case. That's supposed to make me feel better. No, it's supposed to make you smart. Morrison's backed into a corner. Cornered animals are dangerous, but they're also predictable. He's going to lash out legally because that's the only weapon he has left." After Hayes hung up, Rex stood at his window looking down at the street. Sure enough, a news van was parked across from his building, a reporter doing stand-ups with his apartment in the background. A small crowd had gathered, some supportive holding signs that read "Hero" and "Thank you," but others angry, still believing Morrison's version of events. Thunder growled at the window, sensing Rex's tension. "We're not going out there, boy. Not today." But isolation wasn't an option. Rex's phone rang again, his sister this time. "They're at my building too," she said, her voice tight with stress. "Chloe's scared. She doesn't understand why people are taking pictures through our windows. Rex, what do I tell her?" "Tell her the truth. Tell her Daddy helped some kids who were in trouble, and now some people are mad about it, and some people are happy about it. She's 8. She shouldn't have to deal with this." "I know." Rex closed his eyes. "Do you want me to come get her? Take her somewhere away from the cameras? And go where they'll follow you. You're the story now." His sister's voice softened. "I'm not blaming you. What you did was brave and stupid and exactly like you. But we need a plan." The plan came from an unexpected source. At 8 a.m., Rex's doorbell rang. Thunder erupted in barking, and Rex approached cautiously, checking the peephole. A woman stood in the hallway, late 30s, professional attire, carrying a briefcase and an expression that suggested she didn't appreciate waiting. "Mr. Sullivan," she called through the door. "My name is Diana Reeves. I'm an attorney. Senator Chen hired me to represent you. May I come in?" Rex opened the door slowly, keeping Thunder on a tight leash. The woman didn't flinch at the sight of the German Shepherd, a point in her favor. "Senator Chen hired you," Rex repeated. "Why?" "Because you saved his daughter. Because Morrison's people are going to bury you in legal fees if someone doesn't help. And because the senator believes in paying his debts." She walked past him into the apartment, setting her briefcase on his kitchen table. "I'm going to be very direct, Mr. Sullivan. You're about to be sued into oblivion by one of the best law firms in Colorado. They're going to drag you through depositions, discovery, and court appearances designed to break you financially and emotionally. Without representation, you'll lose your home, your custody of your daughter, and probably your sanity." "You're very reassuring." Diana smiled, sharp and predatory. "I'm not here to reassure you. I'm here to win. Morrison's civil suit is garbage, and we're going to prove it. But I need you to follow my instructions exactly. No talking to press, no social media, no attempts to defend yourself publicly. Everything goes through me, understood? What about my daughter? Already handled. I've arranged for private security for both her and your sister. Nothing obvious, just professionals who'll make sure no one harasses them." Diana pulled out a thick folder. "I've also prepared a statement for the media. Short, simple, factual. It says you're cooperating with authorities. You're grateful the children are safe, and you ask for privacy while the legal process continues." Rex took the folder, scanning the statement. It was perfect, saying everything that needed to be said, without giving Morrison's lawyers any ammunition. "How much is this going to cost me?" he asked. Nothing. Senator Chen is covering all fees. I can't let him do that. Diana's expression softened slightly. Mr. Sullivan, the senator's daughter, was missing for 8 months. She was trafficked across 3 states. She suffered things no child should suffer. You brought her home. There is no amount of money that repays that debt. Let him help you. Over the next 2 weeks, Rex learned what it meant to be at the center of a media storm. His face was everywhere. Local news, national news, social media, even international outlets picking up the story. Some painted him as a hero, others as a vigilante, and a few conspiracy theorists claimed the whole thing was staged. Diana handled it all with ruthless efficiency. She filed countersuits against Morrison for defamation and malicious prosecution. She organized a legal team that picked apart every claim in Morrison's civil case, and she made sure Rex was protected from the worst of the harassment. But protection didn't mean isolation. 3 days after Diana's arrival, Rex received a call from an unknown number. Against his better judgment, he answered. Mr. Sullivan. The voice was young female hesitant. My name is Maria Chen. You saved me at the truck stop. Rex's throat tightened. Maria, how are you? I'm okay. My dad got me the best therapists. My mom won't stop crying and hugging me. It's weird being home after so long. She paused. I wanted to thank you. The police told me you're the one who came into the trailer. Who told us we were safe? You don't need to thank me. Yes, I do, because you didn't have to help. You could have just filmed it and sent the video to police, but you came for us. You risked your life. Her voice cracked. The boy with the scar, Carlos? He said you told him the bad people would get caught, like the wolf in Little Red Riding Hood. Rex smiled despite the emotion choking him. My daughter loves that story. Tell her thank you. Tell her that story helped me be brave when I was scared. After they hung up, Rex sat on his couch with Thunder and cried for the first time since this whole thing started. Not from sadness or stress, but from the overwhelming relief of knowing that what he'd done mattered. That those children were home. That Maria was talking to her parents, seeing therapists starting to heal. The calls kept coming. Parents of the rescued children wanting to thank him. Some offered money, which he refused. Others offered to testify on his behalf if Morrison's case went to trial. One father, a mechanic from Colorado Springs, showed up at Rex's door with a casserole and tears streaming down his face. My boy Danny, he's 6. The man said, standing in Rex's hallway, holding the dish like an offering. He told me you carried him out of the trailer because his legs wouldn't work. He said you promised him the monsters were gone. Rex took the casserole, not trusting himself to speak. I can't give you money, can't give you anything that matters, but I can tell you that my son is sleeping in his own bed tonight because of you. And that's everything. Lieutenant Hayes kept Rex updated on the criminal case. Morrison had been denied bail after prosecutors argued he was a flight risk and a danger to witnesses. His lawyers were fighting it, but the evidence was overwhelming. 20 children rescued. Financial records showing millions in illegal transactions. Testimony from Martinez, who'd finally been released from the hospital and was recovering at an undisclosed location. The trial's going to be a circus, Hayes told Rex during one of their unofficial meetings at a coffee shop far from the media circus. Morrison's team is going for a scorched earth defense, attacking every witness, questioning every piece of evidence, painting you as some kind of unhinged vigilante who manipulated everyone. Will it work? Not a chance. But it'll be ugly. They're going to put you on the stand, ask about your mental health, your military service, your divorce, your fitness as a father. They're going to try to break you. Rex sipped his coffee, watching Thunder sleep under the table. Let them try. That's the spirit. Hayes smiled grimly. For what it's worth, the FBI loves you. You handed them the biggest trafficking bust in Colorado history. They're talking about using this case as a blueprint for other investigations. Great, I'm a blueprint. You're a pain in my ass is what you are. But you're also the reason 20 families got their children back, so I guess I can forgive the paperwork. The breaking point came on a Tuesday afternoon, 3 weeks after the truck stop. Rex was at home trying to help Chloe with her homework over video chat when his phone buzzed with an alert from the security company Diana had hired. Intruder detected at sister's apartment building, police dispatched. Rex's blood turned to ice. Chloe, baby, I need you to go to your room and lock the door, right now. But Daddy, now. His sister appeared on screen, her face pale. Rex, what's wrong? Lock your doors. Get Chloe away from windows. Security alert just went off. He was already moving Thunder at his heels, grabbing his keys and phone. The drive to his sister's apartment normally took 15 minutes. Rex made it in 8, running 2 red lights and nearly causing 3 accidents. Police cars were already there when he arrived, lights flashing. Rex ran inside, taking stairs 3 at a time, Thunder racing ahead. His sister's door was open, officers standing guard, and inside he found Chloe crying in his sister's arms while 2 plainclothes detectives took statements. What happened? Rex demanded. One of the detectives turned Hayes. Of course it was Hayes. Someone tried to break in through the fire escape, she said quietly. Security caught him on camera. He ran before we arrived. Who was it? We're pulling footage now, but Rex... She pulled him aside, lowering her voice. This wasn't random. The guy had lockpicks, glass cutters, professional equipment. Someone sent him. Morrison. We can't prove it yet. He's in jail and his calls are monitored. But yeah, probably someone in his network trying to intimidate you. Remind you he can still reach your family. Rex looked at his daughter, trembling and scared, and something inside him snapped. This ends. Today. I'm calling Diana. We're going to Morrison's lawyers and offering a deal. What kind of deal? I drop my countersuits, stop cooperating with media, disappear from the story completely. In exchange, they leave my family alone. Guaranteed. In writing. Hayes grabbed his arm. Rex, you can't let him win like this. I'm not letting him win. I'm protecting my daughter. There's a difference. He pulled free. Morrison's going to prison. The criminal case is solid. But Chloe shouldn't have to live in fear because her dad tried to do the right thing. He'll see it as weakness. Use it against you. Let him. As long as my daughter is safe, I don't care what he thinks. But before Rex could call Diana, his phone rang. An unknown number which he almost didn't answer. Then he saw the caller ID note that Hayes must have added at some point. Martinez. Sullivan! Martinez's voice was stronger than last time, though still raspy. Hayes told me what happened. Don't you dare make a deal with Morrison. My daughter. We'll be safe, I promise you. But if you back down now, you show Morrison that threats work, that he can make you bend, and next time he needs leverage, he'll come at Chloe even harder. There won't be a next time. He's going to prison. For how long? 10 years? 15, and then what? He gets out, calls in favors, and comes for you when Chloe's in college, when she's got kids of her own. Martinez coughed, and Rex heard her wince. I know you're scared. I'm scared too. Morrison tried to kill me twice, but we can't let fear make our decisions. Then what do? You stand up. You testify. You let the world see what kind of man Morrison really is. And you trust that the people who have your back, Hayes, me, Diana, Senator Chen, all those parents will keep you and Chloe safe. Rex looked across the apartment at his daughter, who'd stopped crying and was now petting Thunder. The dog had positioned himself between Chloe and the door, on guard, protecting her the way he'd been trained. What if it's not enough? Rex asked quietly. Then we fight harder, but we fight together. You're not alone in this anymore, Sullivan. You've got an army of people who owe you everything. Use that. After Martinez hung up, Rex sat with Chloe on his sister's couch, Thunder between them, and tried to explain things in a way an 8-year-old could understand. The bad people are trying to scare us, he said. They want us to stop telling the truth about what they did. Are we going to stop? What do you think we should do? Chloe looked at him with those serious eyes that were too old for her age. In Little Red Riding Hood, the wolf tries to scare everyone. But the hunter doesn't run away. He goes into the woods and saves them. That's just a story, baby. But it's a true story. About being brave. She hugged Thunder. You're brave, Daddy. Like the hunter. And Thunder's brave too. So we should be brave together. Out of the mouths of babes, Rex thought. Wisdom he didn't deserve, but desperately needed. Okay, he said, pulling her close. We'll be brave together. The next morning, Rex called Diana and told her there would be no deal. They were going forward with everything: the countersuits, the testimony, the full cooperation with prosecutors. Morrison's people could do their worst. Diana's response was immediate. Good, because I just got word that 4 more victims came forward. Adults who were trafficked through Morrison's network years ago. They saw the news coverage and found the courage to speak. Your refusal to back down gave them that courage. I don't feel very courageous. Courage isn't the absence of fear, Mr. Sullivan. It's moving forward despite it. You're doing that. So are those victims. Together, we're going to make sure Morrison never hurts another child. The trial date was set for 6 weeks out. In that time, Rex's life became a strange new normal. He returned to work at a different construction site Morrison's company had folded, its assets seized. His new boss was a gruff man named Rodriguez, who'd heard the whole story and had exactly 2 things to say about it. You do good work, and you show up on time. When Rex answered yes to both, Rodriguez nodded. Then I don't care about the rest. The media attention faded as new stories emerged and the news cycle moved on. Rex's face stopped appearing on the front page. The reporters camped outside his building found other stories to chase. Life returned to something approaching normal. But normal had changed. Rex couldn't walk through a grocery store without someone recognizing him, some to thank him, others to glare and mutter about vigilantes. He received letters almost daily, some supportive, others threatening. Diana's office screened them all, forwarding only the ones worth reading. One letter came from Carlos, the boy with the scar from the trailer. His English was halting clearly, written with help, but the message was clear. You told me the bad people would get caught. Now I believe you. Thank you for making me believe. Another came from Martinez, a simple note that read, Recovery is slow. Testimony is prepared. See you in court. Don't let them rattle you. And the one Rex kept in his wallet, came from Maria Chen. My dad says you won't take money, so I'm giving you something better. I'm going to college to study social work. I'm going to help other kids like me. Because you showed me that one person can change everything. You changed everything for me. Rex read that letter on the morning of Morrison's trial, standing in front of his bathroom mirror in the only suit he owned, Thunder watching from the doorway. The dog seemed to sense the importance of the day, his usual playfulness replaced by alert attention. This is it, boy, Rex said, adjusting his tie for the 3rd time. Everything we've been building to. Thunder's tail wagged once, slow and deliberate. Diana picked him up in a black sedan with tinted windows. Ready? She asked as he climbed in. No, but I'm going anyway. That's the spirit. She handed him a folder. Final prep. The prosecutor will ask you to walk through the night at the warehouse. Be honest. Be clear. Don't embellish. The facts are damning enough without dramatics. And Morrison's lawyers will try to rattle you. They'll ask about your mental health, your combat experience, anything to paint you as unstable. Remember, you're not on trial. He is. Answer truthfully, but don't take the bait. The courthouse steps were packed with media. Camera crews, reporters, protesters on both sides, some supporting Morrison, claiming his innocence, others holding pictures of the rescued children. Rex kept his head down, following Diana through the crowd, ignoring the shouted questions. Inside the courtroom was already filling. Rex saw Hayes in the gallery dressed in her formal uniform. Martinez was there too, still moving carefully but present. Senator Chen sat in the front row with his daughter, who gave Rex a small wave when their eyes met. And there at the defense table, sat William Morrison. The man looked smaller than Rex remembered, diminished by an orange jumpsuit and shackles. But his eyes, those eyes, still carried the same cold calculation that had threatened Chloe, that had ordered children trafficked, that had tried to have Martinez killed. Morrison looked directly at Rex and smiled. It was the smile that did it. The sheer arrogance of a man who still thought he could win, who still believed his money and connections would save him. Rex smiled back. Not a friendly smile, not a nervous smile. The smile of a father who'd walked into hell to save children he'd never met. The smile of a man who'd faced down gunfire and threats and legal warfare and refused to break. The smile of someone who knew beyond any doubt that justice was about to be served. The bailiff called the court to order. The judge entered. The prosecutor stood to make her opening statement. And Rex Sullivan, single father and former Army medic, sat in the witness gallery and prepared to tell the truth that would destroy a monster. The prosecutor was a woman named Catherine Vasquez, 50s, with steel gray hair and the kind of commanding presence that made even the judge sit up straighter. She'd spent 3 decades putting away some of Colorado's worst criminals, and from the moment she stood to deliver her opening statement, Rex knew Morrison had met his match. "Ladies and gentlemen of the jury," Vasquez began, her voice carrying to every corner of the courtroom. "Over the next several days, you're going to hear a story that will challenge your faith in humanity. You'll hear about children stolen from their families, about a man who wore a badge and a smile while destroying innocent lives, about a criminal empire that stretched across state lines and international borders." She turned, pointing directly at Morrison. "That man sitting there in shackles, he wants you to believe he's the victim, that he's been falsely accused by a conspiracy of vengeful cops and an unstable vigilante. He'll tell you he's a decorated officer, a successful businessman, a pillar of the community." Vasquez walked closer to the jury box. "But the evidence will tell you something different. It will tell you about 20 children rescued from a truck stop in the middle of the night. Children who can identify him. Children who can describe in their own words what he did to them. And it will tell you about Detective Casey Martinez, who spent 6 months undercover in Morrison's organization, gathering proof of his crimes at the risk of her own life." Morrison's lead attorney, a slick man named Gerald Blackwood, the same one who'd tried to bribe Rex, objected 3 times during the opening statement. Each time the judge overruled him with barely concealed irritation. The first witness was Hayes. She walked the jury through the night at the warehouse, showing crime scene photos that made several jurors wince. The blood on the concrete, the empty shipping container, the zip ties on Morrison's men. "And where was the defendant when your units arrived?" Vasquez asked. "Secured to a support beam. He and 3 armed associates had been restrained by a civilian who'd intervened to save Detective Martinez's life." "Objection." Blackwood stood. "The witness is characterizing my client as the aggressor, when in fact—" "Overruled," the judge said flatly. "The witness is describing what she observed at the scene." Hayes continued, detailing the evidence found at the warehouse. The recording device Martinez had been wearing, the financial records in Morrison's vehicle, the photographs of the 6 children who'd been held in the shipping container. When Blackwood cross-examined her, he tried to paint the whole incident as a misunderstanding orchestrated by Rex. "Isn't it true, Lieutenant, that Mr. Sullivan has a history of violent behavior, that he assaulted my client and fabricated this entire scenario?" Hayes looked at Blackwood with an expression that could have frozen fire. "What's true is that Rex Sullivan saved 7 lives that night, including a police officer. What's also true is that your client threatened Mr. Sullivan's 8-year-old daughter to try to cover up his crimes." The courtroom erupted. The judge's gavel came down like thunder. Blackwood demanded the statement be stricken from the record, but the damage was done. The jury had heard it. They'd seen the outrage on Hayes's face. Martinez testified on day 2. She walked to the witness stand, slowly, still healing from her injuries, but her voice was steady and clear. She described going undercover, earning Morrison's trust, documenting every crime she witnessed. "He called them packages," Martinez said, her eyes locked on the jury. "That's how he referred to the children. Not by their names, not as human beings, just packages to be moved from point A to point B. Vasquez pulled up photos on the courtroom screen images Martinez had secretly taken of Morrison's operation. Children in cages, financial ledgers showing payments, text messages between Morrison and his associates using code words that Martinez had deciphered. "And did the defendant ever directly admit his involvement?" Vasquez asked. "Multiple times. He bragged about it. Said he'd been doing this for 15 years and no one had ever touched him because he knew how to buy the right people." Martinez's jaw tightened. He said the system was broken and smart people exploited that. When Blackwood cross-examined her, he tried a different tactic. "Detective Martinez, isn't it true that you've been under investigation by Internal Affairs for evidence tampering in previous cases?" "That's a lie," Martinez said flatly. "Is it? I have records here showing. You have fabricated documents created by your client's people to discredit me. The Internal Affairs investigation you're referring to was opened after I started investigating Morrison. It was closed 2 weeks ago with no findings of misconduct." She leaned forward. "Your client tried to have me killed twice. Once at the warehouse, once in the hospital by tampering with my IV. So forgive me if I don't find your character assassination particularly effective." The jury was leaning forward now, hanging on every word. Blackwood had made a tactical error, and he knew it. He ended his cross-examination abruptly, and Martinez left the stand with her head high. But it was the children's testimonies that truly buried Morrison. The prosecution called 5 of them to testify, the ones old enough and psychologically stable enough to handle the courtroom. They testified via closed-circuit television, sparing them from having to face Morrison directly, but their words echoed through the courtroom with devastating clarity. Maria Chen, Senator Chen's daughter, was first. She described being taken from a mall parking lot in California, being transported in a van with 6 other children, arriving at the warehouse where Morrison personally inspected them like livestock. "He looked at my teeth." Maria said, her voice small but determined. "Like I was a horse he was buying. Then he said I was pretty enough to bring a good price." Her father was crying in the gallery, his wife's hand clutched in his. Rex felt his own throat tighten. Carlos, the boy with the scar, testified about being trafficked from Honduras, about Morrison's operation spanning multiple countries, about the threats Morrison made to keep the children compliant. "He said if we tried to escape, he'd kill our families," Carlos said through the translator. "He showed us pictures, said he had people everywhere who could find them." A girl named Sophie, only 10 years old, described the truck stop. Morrison transferring children from the semi-trailer to the SUVs, the moment the rival group had shown up and the shooting had started. "I thought we were going to die," Sophie whispered. But then a man came into the trailer. He had kind eyes. He said we were safe now. Vasquez showed her a photo. "Is this the man?" Sophie nodded, pointing at Rex's picture. "That's him. He saved us." Rex had to look away, emotion overwhelming him. Diana squeezed his shoulder gently. When it was finally Rex's turn to testify on day 4, the courtroom was packed beyond capacity. People stood in the hallway straining to hear through the doors. The media presence had tripled. This was the moment everyone had been waiting for, the confrontation between the vigilante hero and the fallen police captain. Rex took the stand, his hand on the Bible, and swore to tell the truth. Vasquez approached him with a reassuring smile. "Mr. Sullivan, can you tell the jury what you do for a living?" "I'm a construction worker and a father. And before that, I served in the Army as a combat medic. Honorable discharge after 8 years." Vasquez walked him through that night at the warehouse. Every detail. Finding Martinez, Morrison's arrival, the threats against Chloe, the choice Rex had faced. He showed me live photos of my daughter. Rex said, his voice steady despite the memory. Told me exactly where she was, what she was wearing. Said if I didn't help him cover up Martinez's murder, my little girl would have an accident. How did that make you feel? Terrified. and angry, but mostly terrified. So why didn't you comply? Rex looked at the jury. Because Martinez told me about the 6 children in that shipping container. And I realized that if I saved my daughter by letting those kids disappear, I'd be teaching her that some lives matter more than others. That scared is a good enough reason to let evil win. He paused. I couldn't do that. I couldn't look her in the eye and tell her that Daddy chose her over 6 other children who needed help just as badly. The courtroom was silent. Vasquez let the moment breathe before continuing. What happened next? Rex described the fight, Thunder's attack, subduing Morrison and his men, finding the children, staying with them until the police arrived. And during all of this, did Captain Morrison ever deny his involvement in human trafficking? No, he admitted it. Bragged about it, actually. Said he'd been doing this for years, and I was a fool for thinking I could stop him. Vasquez showed security footage from the warehouse, the kind that Morrison's people hadn't been able to erase. Grainy, but clear enough to show Morrison's men drawing weapons first. Thunder defending Rex. The children cowering in the container. When Blackwood stood for cross-examination, his smile was sharp and cold. Mr. Sullivan, you've painted yourself as quite the hero today. But let's talk about your past, shall we? You suffer from PTSD, correct? I've been diagnosed with it, yes. And you've had violent episodes, nightmares, flashbacks where you don't know where you are or what you're doing. I've had nightmares. I've never had a violent episode. Haven't you? Blackwood pulled out a police report. Says here you were involved in an altercation at a bar 3 years ago. Multiple witnesses say you attacked someone without provocation. Rex kept his voice even. A man was harassing the waitress, grabbed her inappropriately. I intervened. The police report you're reading was filed by that man. The charges were dropped when 6 witnesses, including the waitress, testified that I stopped an assault. Blackwood's smile faltered. But you did use violence. I used the minimum force necessary to stop someone from hurting another person, just like I did at the warehouse. Ah, yes, the warehouse, where you attacked my client and 3 security guards. They weren't security guards, they were armed traffickers, and I didn't attack them. I defended Detective Martinez and myself. Blackwood tried a different angle. You expect this jury to believe that you, a construction worker, single-handedly defeated 4 armed men and a decorated police captain. I had training, I had thunder, and I had something they didn't. What's that? A reason to fight that mattered more than my own life. Those children. That's what I was fighting for. Blackwood spent another hour trying to rattle Rex, questioning his motives, his mental state, his version of events. But Rex had been through worse interrogations in Afghanistan. He'd faced down enemy combatants and watched friends die. A lawyer in an expensive suit didn't intimidate him. Finally, Blackwood asked, "Isn't it true, Mr. Sullivan, that you've positioned yourself as some kind of savior so you can profit from this book deal's movie rights speaking tours?" Rex leaned forward. "I haven't accepted a single dollar from anyone. Senator Chen hired my lawyer without my permission. The only thing I want is for those children to be safe and for Morrison to never hurt another kid. That's it. That's all I've ever wanted." When Rex stepped down from the stand, the jury was watching him with expressions that ranged from sympathy to outright admiration. Blackwood had tried to destroy his credibility and had only made him more sympathetic. The trial lasted 9 days total. The prosecution presented 47 witnesses, hundreds of pieces of evidence and testimony that painted Morrison as the architect of a trafficking ring that had destroyed dozens of lives over 15 years. The defense tried to claim it was all a conspiracy, that Morrison was being framed, that Rex was an unstable vigilante who'd orchestrated everything. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. When they returned, the forewoman stood with a piece of paper that would determine Morrison's fate. The judge asked for the verdict on the first count, human trafficking of a minor. Guilty. Second count, conspiracy to commit human trafficking. Guilty. Third count, attempted murder of a police officer. Guilty. The counts continued, 37 in total. 37 times the forewoman said guilty. Morrison's face went from smug confidence to ashen shock. Blackwood was already preparing appeals paperwork, but everyone in that courtroom knew the truth. William Morrison was going to spend the rest of his life in prison. The sentencing hearing 2 weeks later was standing room only. Victim impact statements filled an entire day. Parents describing their agony when their children went missing. The children themselves describing what had been done to them. Martinez reading a statement from her hospital bed about the cost of doing the right thing. When it was Rex's turn, he stood at the podium and looked directly at Morrison. "You tried to make me choose between my daughter and doing what was right," Rex said quietly. "You thought that threat would break me, but all you did was show me what kind of man you are. The kind who uses children as weapons. The kind who has no honor, no conscience, no humanity." Morrison stared back, his expression blank. "I hope you live a very long life in prison," Rex continued. "I hope you have decades to think about the lives you destroyed, the children you traumatized, the families you tore apart, and I hope that every day you remember that your empire fell because a construction worker with a dog refused to let you win." The judge sentenced Morrison to 45 consecutive life sentences without possibility of parole. He would die in prison. His associates would join him. His assets would be seized and distributed to his victims. As the bailiffs led Morrison away in chains, he looked back at Rex one last time. But the smile was gone. There was only defeat in those eyes. The eyes of a man who'd learned too late that money and connections couldn't buy everything. Outside the courthouse, Rex faced a wall of cameras and reporters. Diana had prepared a statement, but Rex folded it and put it in his pocket. "I'm not a hero," he said into the microphones. "I'm just a dad who did what any parent should do when they see a child in danger. The real heroes are the children who survived, who testified, who had the courage to come forward and tell their stories." He looked directly at the cameras. "And I hope that every person watching this understands that trafficking doesn't just happen somewhere else to someone else's kids. It happens here, in our communities. And it continues because we look away." Someone shouted a question about what he'd do next. Rex thought about that. About the calls he'd been getting from organizations fighting trafficking. About the parents asking for help finding their own missing children. About Martinez's words in the hospital. "You're not alone in this anymore." "I'm going to keep helping," Rex said simply, "however I can." 3 months later, Rex stood in a small office downtown, looking at the sign being hung on the door. "Sullivan Recovery Services," it read in simple black letters. Beneath it in smaller text, "Finding the lost, protecting the innocent." Hayes leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, shaking her head. "You know this is crazy, right? Starting a private investigation firm focused on finding trafficked kids. You have no license, no official training." "I have you," Rex interrupted. "And Martinez. And Diana handling the legal side. And about 50 families willing to pay for my services. They're paying you with casseroles and gratitude. That's not a business model." Senator Chen made a donation, big enough to cover operating costs for 2 years. Said it was an investment in making the world safer for his daughter. Rex smiled. "Besides, Rodriguez is keeping me on part-time at the construction site. I'm not going to starve." Martinez walked in, still using a cane but moving better every day. "Please tell me you at least filed for your PI license." "Diana's handling it. Should be approved next month." "And in the meantime, you're just going to solve cases on charm and stubbornness. It's worked so far." Thunder barked from the corner where he'd been inspecting his new bed, a donation from a grateful parent whose son Rex had helped rescue. The dog had become something of a celebrity, his picture appearing in news stories alongside Rex's. The door opened and a woman entered hesitantly. Mid-40s, exhausted eyes clutching a folder to her chest. "I'm looking for Rex Sullivan." Rex stepped forward. "That's me. How can I help you?" "My daughter. She's been missing for 6 weeks. The police say there are no leads, but I saw what you did for those other children and I thought—" Her voice broke. "I thought maybe you could help." Rex took the folder, opening it to see a smiling teenage girl staring back at him from a school photo. 15 years old. Braces. Hopeful eyes that had no idea what was coming. "Tell me everything," Rex said, guiding the woman to a chair. "Start from the beginning." As she spoke, describing her daughter's disappearance, the suspicious circumstances, the police's lack of progress, Rex felt something click into place. This was what he was meant to do. Not construction, not just being a father to Chloe, though that would always be his priority. This, finding the lost, fighting for those who couldn't fight for themselves. Hayes caught his eye, and despite her earlier skepticism, she was smiling. "You're going to need help with this one. Girl went missing in Boulder. That's out of my jurisdiction, but I know people." "I'd appreciate that." Martinez sat down, pulling out a laptop. "I'll start running background on her known associates. Check social media, see if there are any patterns." The woman looked between them, hope dawning on her face. "You'll really help, even though I can't pay much." "You don't need to pay anything," Rex said. "Just promise me that when we find your daughter, you'll hug her tight and never let go." That evening, Rex picked up Chloe from his sister's apartment. The custody arrangement had been formalized. He had her every weekend and Wednesday nights, with the option to renegotiate as his schedule stabilized. His sister had been skeptical of his new business venture, but she'd seen the change in him. The purpose. "Daddy, can Thunder come to my school for show and tell?" Chloe asked as they drove toward his apartment. She was bouncing in her seat, excited about some project she'd been working on. "Maybe. What are you going to talk about?" "Heroes. We have to bring something that represents a hero." She looked at him with those serious 8-year-old eyes. "I was going to bring you, but Mrs. Patterson said we can't bring people, so I thought Thunder could represent you." Rex felt his chest tighten. "Baby, I'm not a hero." "Yes, you are. You saved those kids, the ones on TV. Maria came to my school and talked about you." "Maria Chen came to your school?" "Uh-huh. She's in high school now, but she does presentations about trafficking awareness. She told everyone about how you saved her. She said you're the reason she's going to help other kids when she grows up." Chloe paused. "Is that what you're going to do with your new office?" "Yeah, sweetheart. That's exactly what I'm going to do." "Good. Because there are a lot of kids who need saving." Out of the mouths of babes, Rex thought again. His daughter understood what so many adults didn't, that looking away was the same as being complicit. That one person could make a difference. That doing the right thing, even when it was terrifying, was the only way to live with yourself. 6 months after Morrison's conviction, Rex had helped locate 4 missing children. 2 were trafficking victims rescued through careful investigation and coordination with law enforcement. 1 was a runaway who'd fallen in with the wrong crowd, brought home through patient communication and family mediation. 1 was a custody dispute where the father had violated a court order and fled the state. 4 families reunited. 4 children safe. It wasn't enough. There were so many more out there, but it was a start. The phone on Rex's desk rang on a Tuesday morning. A detective from Wyoming calling about a case that matched Morrison's old patterns. Would Rex be willing to consult? He would. An email came from a nonprofit in Texas. They were organizing a conference on trafficking prevention. Would Rex be willing to speak? He would. A text message from Hayes. Found a lead on the Chen case. Morrison's network went deeper than we thought. Need your eyes on this. He was already grabbing his keys. And through it all, Thunder was there. Alert at the office. Protective when Rex went into the field. Gentle when children needed comfort. The dog had become as essential to the operation as Rex himself. 1 year after the warehouse, Rex took Chloe to visit the memorial that had been erected on the site. It was a small thing, a plaque and a garden where the shipping container had stood. 20 small trees, 1 for each child, rescued that night. Their names engraved on stones around a central fountain. Chloe read each name carefully, touching the stones. Do you know all of them, Daddy? Most of them. Some I've met, some I haven't. But I think about all of them. Do they think about you? I don't know. I hope they think about being safe, about being home, about having futures they almost lost. Chloe was quiet for a moment, standing beside Maria Chen's tree, a flowering cherry that was just beginning to bud. When I grow up, I want to help kids too, like you and Maria. Rex knelt beside his daughter Thunder, sitting patiently at their side. You know what the best way to help is? What? Be the kind of person who doesn't look away, who sees someone in trouble and does something about it. You don't need an office or a badge or anything special. You just need to care. Like you did. Like we all should. They stood there in the garden, father and daughter and dog, surrounded by trees that represented lives saved and futures restored. The sun was setting over Denver, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold. Somewhere in the city, there were children who needed help, families searching for answers, monsters who thought they were untouchable. But there was also Rex Sullivan, former Army medic and construction worker, who'd learned that ordinary people could do extraordinary things when they refused to look away. Who'd discovered that the real superpower wasn't strength or weapons or training. It was the simple decision to stand up when everyone else sat down. Thunder leaned against Rex's leg, warm and solid. Chloe slipped her small hand into his. The three of them stood together as the darkness gathered, unafraid. Because monsters existed, yes. But so did people willing to fight them. And as long as Rex Sullivan drew breath, as long as Thunder stood guard, as long as children like Chloe understood that one person's courage could light the way for others, the monsters would never win. Not tonight. Not ever. Rex Sullivan had found a female cop dying in a warehouse and made a choice that changed everything. He'd become a protector, a searcher, a voice for the voiceless. He'd shown the entire police force, shown the entire world what one ordinary man with a dog and a conscience could accomplish. And he was just getting started.